working with public schools and getting our children involved in this process so they have a
Shit.
better understanding, because they're the ones going to reap the benefits of all this that's going on now. And they need to have a better understanding of that, I believe. Because we're not going to, 20, 30 years, we're not going to be here. But the children are going to be here, and they're going to be
Yeah, and they're
handed
fucked.
this. And so I think it'd be better if
They are so
were
fucked.
educated early on, and that was part of their focus.
Yeah.
So I would say that the two major areas in the program arena are the student fare affordability, so potentially opening greater access to young people to take transit to school and get that habit early, and then safe routes to schools, which would probably be a combo of capital investments to make sure there's sidewalks, there's beacons, there's places there's ways to get there safely, but also programs with the schools to actually help people learn how to ride a bike, or get groups of kids and parents walking that new safe route to get that practice in place. So those are at least two areas of focus. Metro does have other programs we fund with existing funding, the regional transportation options and other programs trying to help people get access to carpooling and alternative means of getting here to there. So hope those speak to some degree to the area you're raising.
They do, and I would hope the primary focus would be on communities of color as well, because they're the ones that are typically most impacted, but the least educated on those particular topics.
Yeah.
And the Safe Routes to School program does focus on the Title IX schools primarily. So,
Yeah, this is a question for Metro. I know that this ballot measure was brought forward with the transportation focused out the gate, and as of a few months ago, I know that there was a growing sentiment of ensuring that TriMet was engaged and involved, and I know we have been. But I still feel like we're depending on Metro essentially to bring this thing home and set it up for success. What do you need from TriMet between now and spring to ensure that not only there's something put on the ballot that is vetted through the community, but that is actually set up for success in the kind of outcomes that we're trying to bring forward?
See, this is important because he's talking about how do we trick people to give us their money. Okay, because that's what it is. It's a trick.
What a great question. So we've been working in deep partnership around sort of the question that you raised of how do we talk to the voters about what we're trying to accomplish here. And a good bit of what is actually transformational in the developing proposal is subtle. It's about creating the ability to move transit through traffic on these core routes by making capital investments. It's about thinking about the places, the corridors as places that we're investing in, and how to make them places where community can stay there and thrive as that area grows. We're trying to think long term in
Bullshit.
making these investments. So one area we're working on is how do we communicate that concept of faster bus, better bus, rapid bus, whatever you want to call it, in a way that citizenry and voters and residents can understand, because it's a somewhat complex area.
See, it's a very interesting phenomenon that Metro is bringing this, and not TriMet. That tells you everything right there. Okay, Metro is bringing this forward.
To when we eventually get to the ballot, a lot of voters will open their ballot book and they will look at the title, which is the caption question summary, and they will vote. Hopefully, they'll go online and look at what editorial boards are saying or talk to their neighbors and friends, but a large chunk of people are going to look at that title and make a decision. So figuring out how we communicate these complex investments and these complex benefits to voters is something that we have been working with your staff on, and will continue. That's a good one in your wheelhouse to help us with. I think then broader engagement as we solidify the proposal, a broader community engagement in the months through the winter and into the spring around what we're trying to accomplish and the benefits of not just the corridors but these additional program concepts would be very welcome. I think we're about to sort of pull together the communications staff from the various agencies to start talking about how we engage in that process, and we'd welcome your participation in that. There's a moment at which staff stop doing our work, and our council refers something, and we can provide factual information beyond that point, but others then step up and get involved in a private campaign. And that's been something that our council has always done, and I know they would welcome help and support in that. I think I can say that now since our parks measure has been passed.
Thank you.
Well, let me go on a little bit.
Well, and I think that's important. Before we leave that, I think Director Gonzalez, your point is well taken. I think we need to own this. When it gets completed, I think this board needs to say, yeah, this is a program we can support. And I think going out, we may not be able to actually say vote yes, but we can sure go out and make presentations and talk about what
What's
the
that
measure
on?
is not.
Did you
And
see
we all,
that? Look, what's that? What is that? What is that? Is that a windmill? What the fuck?
have our own constituent groups and business folks that we
They're
work with.
They're gonna try to. You did hear. Excuse me. I'm still sick. The last speaker talked about the reality of the voter. He's going to open the ballot. They're going to look at. They're not going to know anything about this, okay? Because most people don't. The only time they hear about it is when they go to the ballot and see it for the first time and make a split decision. Of course, you already know how I feel about it. You're out of your mind to raise your own taxes. I don't care what they say it's for, because they're liars. They lie for a living. You always vote no on everything, unless you can see. For example, I would vote yes on a tax increase to make fair transit free, because that would directly benefit the public. Or I would vote yes to make transit 24 hours a day, 15-minute service, because that would directly benefit the people. All of this stuff does not benefit you. It's not going to benefit you. All these plans they have, these grandiose plans, it's going to make it faster for you to get to downtown. That's bullshit, man. You can see right through this. You can see right through this. And there's no way for us to get the voters to understand that. It's just a damn shame.
So I view that we should be part of that effort, as you point out, for outreach and education as this is developed, because it is a critically important ballot measure. I'm sorry, Director Way.
So just 3 questions that I have. First off, I like to thank Director Edwards' point around the youth, right, future ridership piece, because they are the future, right? Students are the future of our state,
they're the
of our
future,
region.
and they're fucked. And you know it, okay? You know where this country's heading and what's going to happen between now and the next 5 years, or probably next year. I bet you right at the election, or right before the election, or right after the election, we're going to see some major upheaval.
And I was actually pretty surprised, because I also serve on a role in my school district in North Clackamas, and I was actually pretty surprised that we didn't hear a lot in our school district about some of the things that were taking place, quite literally in our backyard, with the planning that is taking shape with Clackamas County and that particular lit. And so I think, I don't know if you can take that feedback back to the Metro folks who are doing the outreach and the community engagement, that I think it's really important to engage parents and school districts and students early on in this process. Somehow, we did eventually get a presentation from someone about the corridor projects, but it felt very rushed. So, and if we're also thinking about our, who we're serving, right? As a TriMet, as an agency, my mind goes to, again, that next generation of writers that are coming.
You think come on, does she really believe that?
I think the second thing that I wanted to ask is, so you had mentioned that there's right now a proposal to have 2% set aside for the anti-displacement strategy. Will this language be in the ballot?
A whole 2%? Boy, are they generous.
Or how do you envision?
This is a capital projects bond or tax increase for capital projects. Again, it's capital projects is running the goddamn government right now. Does anybody realize that? It's capital projects is running everything in the Portland area.
Envision this connecting with voters, particularly voters who, right, may not understand anti-displacement and equity.
We just got displaced.
Someone didn't like it.
There's how we do it. No.
So a couple questions in there. About this is technical, but about the structure of the measure, we'll propose a pretty high level ballot measure proposal that'll probably be connected to something that the Metro Council adopts in code, some kind of transportation investment program that will include all the various requirements and the different targeted investments and the corridor descriptions, and some level of interagency agreement will need to be established prior to referral. We'll probably need to have discussion after that about intergovernmental agreements. And so the details of how the 2% concept would work into the corridors will be contained in those ordinances and in the agreements with the jurisdictions who are actually conducting the corridor construction process.
Yeah.
And is the 2%
It's all capital projects, folks. It's capital projects tax increase.
a percentage that
Yeah, what does that
you
mean?
feel like there's consensus on, or do you feel
2%.
like some folks feel like let's do 10%, right? So where
Yeah, how
do you know
about
where the
10%?
assessment?
I mean, I think the feedback we've gotten is, yes, do that. The SWEDS process was highly successful. It was only the process of engaging folks. It didn't include resources for investments. So probably the area to focus on is that percentage right, is that amount right, is to look at. We know what the cost of engaging a committee is, and that we don't necessarily know what the cost of making the follow-on investments would be. I guess I would add, we're looking at a pretty robust set of ongoing program investments, and they include some of the kinds of investments that you might make as a result of a
Robust, blow my
process. So if we
brains
got
out.
that number wrong, there's probably still some resource to think about adding on to address potential displacement in corridors.
Yeah, they haven't really thought about it, in other words.
Other questions, comments? Yes.
I just had a couple. First time, thank you for doing this. I think this is great.
Yeah, great.
I do have a couple of questions, probably not necessarily to answer today, but maybe if you take back to the committee. First is, how does this reconcile with the 2040 goals specifically? So there's a map that the whole region spent an immense amount of quality time on, and how does that match up with the speed and the years? The speed and the years to the JPAC and the committee spent a lot of time on. So that's sort of question one. And question two is, when you look at investments of this complexity and size, what's the ranking of priorities of implementation? To deploy this kind of capital is very significant. When we start to zoom back out at the region, if you look at private sector capital plus public, we've got about $15 billion over some of the same 5-7 year window. As we look at labor shortages, working with our trade partners, which are really important to make that we can ability to execute on these together in a rapidly growing region. So part of the 2040 one is also, is the team been able to look at what is the modal share we're actually getting? I think from 2015's numbers, I think we're around 4.2% transit modal share. Where does that take us?
That's not much.
And then maybe questions for the committee to go back, but I think it becomes important that we look at other global cities, the ability to move the healthy modes of living, whether it be of transit, cycling, walking, plus others. Where does that get us on the stair step of metrics?
So some of those we would have to take back. We won't be doing the modeling on like modal share until after we really settle on the suite of projects. So that will come later into 2020. But on the bigger question of sort of how does this fit with the overall plan, I mean the goal here is to jumpstart the plan, is to make some of the investments that we've been unable to make to achieve our region's goals in land use transportation that we laid out so many decades ago. That what we identified as the major stumbling block to addressing growth, to getting ahead of growth, to managing growth is investment. That was part of why we all went down in 2017 to the legislature and worked so hard to get the $5 billion investment from the state. That helps us a lot. It's part of why we've gone down to a few times to amend our land use authority to make our...
All right, let me just, they're talking about how fast they're growing, and I'm going to read you the list from Wallet Hub of the fastest growing cities in America today. Lee Acres, Florida; Mount Pleasant, South Carolina; Bend, Oregon; Enterprise, Nevada; Frisco, Texas; Fort Myers, Florida; St. George, Utah; Cape Coral, Florida; Round Rock, Texas; College Station, Texas; Murfreesboro, Tennessee; McKinney, Texas; Midland, Texas; Austin, Texas; Concord, North Carolina; Milpitas, California. On and on and on. Portland is 27 on this list. So as far as 40 million people heading to Portland, that's not going to happen.
to allow our decisions around urban growth boundary expansions to be more nimble and smarter, to be in connection with cities that are actually planning for that growth, as opposed to making expansions where they're...
Yeah, I don't know. I wanted to see the discussion on the fair enforcement, but apparently I haven't gotten to it. But LM recommends vote no. You can hear it's all for capital projects that you don't need. It's you can see what this really is just by listening to it. Of course, most people have no idea what we're talking about. They don't know what this really is. It all sounds good on paper, like protect the parks and make the homeless get places for the homeless, but none of it ever works, man. Never mind, they waste all of our federal tax dollars on shit we definitely don't need. You do not need to raise your own taxes. It is just dumb.